Hi guys, welcome back to Forgetful Scholar, and this week's gonna be a little different. This week it's 3 books, but also a little bit of a vlog, a reading vlog, maybe, not. So the problem with that is I went on a road trip to the Grand Canyon with my family, and with family members, and it was so much fun, right? But I did the majority of the driving, so I don't really have a lot of video from it. I tried to get as much video as I can actually at the Grand Canyon, so hopefully I could like sprinkle that in on this probably a long video, longer than usual. I read 2 audiobooks, one on the way there, one on the way back. They're both contemporary urban fantasy. They were revisits for me, and it was so much fun. It was so funny because like on the way there, right? Because there's a lot of dead air when you drive cross country. So completely not the kind of books my family members really, you know, at least the family member that I went with really like. But when it was finished, they were like, I was like, oh, should we listen to another one on the way back? What kind of book would you want to listen to? Because, you know, I wanted to be fair. So I was like, hey, I'll get an audiobook you are interested in. Let's do this. And they're like, you have book 2, right? So I was like, yes, I do. So that was a lot of fun. So 2 urban, contemporary fantasy, realistic magic. And then it's amateur detective, a private investigator. And the third one, which I didn't finish on the trip because again, you know, family trip, didn't really have a lot of downtime, you know, but it is an RPG lit, and I think I'm going to talk about that one first. So that is Carl's Doomsday Scenario, Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 2 by Matt Dinniman. This is a 4.5 stars. I had so much fun reading it. It's 364 pages. So recap, the earth is gone, flattened, and random humans, including Carl, are put into this dungeon scenario that is a lot like a video game, RPG tabletop game, dog scratching at the carpet. Oh, it's great to be home. And if I took shots of me reading this during the vacation, I'll sprinkle them in. Don't get jump scared because I don't have any makeup on. It's okay. We're gonna get through this together. It's fine. I had a blast, and something this author does, they did in this first book and they did in this book. When you're 90% done with the book and you think it's gonna slow down, you know, for the next book, no, some shit's going down, and it's so much fun to read. So Carl and his ex-girlfriend's show cat Donut thrust into this game, and Donut became more I wouldn't say sentient, but more like human like, you know, because animals have thoughts and brains and stuff, but more of a human-esque brain, right? So the thing is, because it's basically a dungeon crawl, obviously it's in the name, and usually if you play video games or tabletop games, you know, sometimes dungeon crawls can be monotonous, and I'm always worried that this book series that's gonna happen, right? But so far, even though they're going down levels, in this one they're on level 3, which they get to pick a race and a class, and down to level 4 at the end of it, it does not get repetitive, at least to me. Like, I didn't find any point in this book or the first book where I was bored. The first book, so this book, you know, the first book, they're figuring out the rules of the game, and they're getting like intergalactic space internet famous, and they're trying to game the system, and Carl stumbles on some secrets that are a lot of fun, and I hope they pay out, so I'm not gonna, but yeah. And yes, you could tell the references that inspired this author's story. I don't care. I find it fun. I think I find it fun. The writing style is humorous, fast-paced, and like my friend said to describe the first book, horrifying and hilarious. And that does not stop. That continues, right? So they make the third floor, and I was really curious what race he's gonna pick, because he said he was gonna stay human. He doesn't stay human, and the race he picks is like not a lot of description on it, so I'm kind of wondering like if that's gonna play in later. I really hope so. A friend of mine that reads a lot of this genre, it's like he says this is mostly the genre he reads. He did warn me that a lot of times by book 5 you kind of get the sense that the author didn't plan everything out, and he said that happens a lot in different series. He didn't say if it happened in this series, but he just kind of forewarned, and I'm like, I get it. They probably didn't think people would be interested all the way to book 5, you know what I mean? So like, I kind of get that, but I really do hope some of the crumbs the author is leaving for us pay out, because you guys know I love that shit. I love that shit. So he picks a race, which is, if you don't want to know, mute me for a second, primal, and there's not really a lot of descriptions because the game doesn't really know what a primal is. So I'm wondering if that's going to, you know, pay out in the future. They picked their class, and the third floor is completely different than the other floors. It looks like a city. It looks like they're outside. They're not. There is a bunch of stuff just on this floor, because the first book they went from floor 1 to floor 2, you know, and stopped from floor 3. So I thought that was gonna like, oh, 2 floors every book. Nope, I was wrong. It's just focused on this floor, and there's so much going on. Evil, what was it, like spore, carnival clowns, creepy. And like even the person fighting against him wasn't a good person, tried to kill Carl multiple times. Elf cult in the city. Like a lot of stuff is going on, and then they get sucked into these different quests, and even though their guide is like, don't get sucked into quests, they get sucked into these different quests, and it's fascinating. And then you learn like there are scripted shows, because the NPCs are, you know, they don't really have autonomy, and you see like there's a whole industry that has written shows going on during the dungeon crawl going on with the dungeon crawlers, if they want to do it or not, right? So, and most of the time they were warned that like if they endanger the main star of this show, the crawler will probably get killed, you know, even though the game is fair. Like, it's fascinating, the intricacies that are going on. And like Carl, you know, he is trying to hold on to his humanity. He doesn't want this game to break him. He's trying to be a nice person and help other people out. But at the same time, he's trying to make sure him and Donut survive. And Mongo, we love Mongo. He runs into a lot of people. He agrees to help this one person in the end. I forget her name. Very interesting character. I hope she stays around. At the end of the book, you find out people that like you thought were nice are now gunning for him because they want Donut on their team, and Donut's not going to leave Carl if Carl's alive. But like, I question that. It's not that I question if the character that wants to kill Carl to take Donut, their intelligence. It's more like, because how this book is set up, it's more I'm questioning if the game broke that person, you know, to the point where they don't care about killing Carl to get Donut, you know? So it's an interesting kind of concept, and it's hilarious because he ends up naked. Carl ends up naked at one point, and it's like, it's so random, but it makes sense in the context of what's going on, to the point there I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. And then like thinking about it as I was making my notes, I was like, what the heck? So it's a lot of fun, right? And their quests were engaging for the reader. Like, I knew these quests didn't really mean anything for the overall book. This is part of the game, and it kind of reminded you when you're playing WoW, you get sucked into these quests, you know, level up and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, I got really interested in the mysteries because so the circus was taken over by this spore thing, and he's turned the circus into like these monsters that kill everything. So one of the circus folk survived, and she's trying to kill them all to set them free, you know, because they're basically forced to be zombies and they hate it, you know, like it's a mercy, you know. Carl figures it out and like kind of angles it so him and Donut don't get in trouble, which was actually really smart. Like, Carl is very, very smart. Everyone in the game that he's interact with kind of like, I think they think he's a nice guy, but also I think they think he's a loose cannon because they're not in his POV, and we're in his POV the whole time. So we kind of get a little leg up in that way. But I really like Carl. I enjoy Donut. I like who the arc her character is on, kind of becoming not used to, but like, because the first book, she was still very much a cat that got the ability to talk. Now it seems more like she is more integrating in more of a higher thought process. Like, I'm not going to say like a human in a cat body, but more like, and you know, oh, it's so hard to explain. So like more like a cat person, if that makes sense, you know? So I'm really interested in that, and I'm rooting for Carl. I have no idea how these genres end, but I'm really rooting for him. I'm rooting for him to tear this whole system down. I love the overarching like political stuff that is going on, which is fascinating, and we get a huge taste of that in this book. And how like the AI seems to be running its own show separate from the company that is running the dungeon itself, which I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting, because you would think how expensive, they said in the book how expensive dungeons are to run, you think they would keep a tight lid, like a tight control over the AI, but the AI is doing its own thing, and you know, the AI loves Carl's feet, so hopefully that gives him a little pretty privilege when it comes to the games. So I'm really interested in so many different things that are like, I wouldn't say loose ends, but are sprinkled in there, and I hope they're not loose ends, because I'm really enjoying all these tiny little like, oh, what about that? What about this? Oh, I can't wait to find about this. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know him being primal. Like, what is that? Does that mean anything to the Grey story? I want to know about Aggie. I want to know about that. I want to know what the Gould like aliens, you know, what's going on with that. Like the outside political stuff is interesting as well. And then we get like the inside turmoil of Carl just trying to survive and not lose what makes him human, you know, cares about people. So that's, I'm just having fun. I'm having so much fun with this. And I hoped I would, because I always hope I like books when I read them, right? I cannot hate read. That is a skill I do not have. I do not have the personality for it. It makes me furious if I hate a book that I'm reading. So I can't do that on purpose. But I'm really glad that I'm enjoying it so much, you know? So that was a lot of fun. So the next two are the audiobooks. So on the way to the Grand Canyon, we had on Stormfront, the Dresden Files Book 1 by Jim Butcher, and the audio narrator was James Marsden. And the thing was, that was because we took our dog. The thing was that was so funny about that, because Remy, my dog, he's a little anxious guy, right? And he doesn't really like car rides, probably because he's like, I'm going to the vet, you know? Because you know when dogs are smart, they put two and two together, like stuff like that. Anyway, he was like whimpering, crying, and I was hoping he would settle down, you know. But the moment I put on the audiobook, I guess it must have been James Marsden's voice, he calmed down, you know. And then when stuff got too exciting, or you know, arcs of fights and stuff like that, I guess because James Marsden's voice took on a different timbre, I would look back and I would see my dog like standing up and straining against his doggy seatbelt, to like staring at the radio where the voice was coming out of, like he was so into it. And I was like, this is so cute. I wish I could take a picture of this, but I'm driving. You know, and you know, again, my family member that was with me, this is not their genre. They usually read like biographies and stuff like this. They were into it. I mean, they didn't say it, but they were into it enough to be like, oh, what happens in the second book? Maybe we should just, you know, do that. You know, it's not a big deal or anything. Love it. Anyway, this one I remember because like my friend got me into the Dresden Files. She let me borrow the first book, so I read the first book first time around. So I knew going into this that Murphy was annoying, right? So Karen Murphy is a cop that's in charge. We're in Chicago, and Murphy's the cop that's in charge of like the basically the supernatural division, right? The X-Files, if you were, right? And Harry Dresden, I love Harry Dresden. Still love Harry Dresden. He is a wizard, a private eye wizard, and I still enjoy like the humor. Dresden has very dry, very self-effacing humor, and things like that. Man, the first book, I knew Karen Murphy was annoying, but it's just, I'll talk about it more later, but like there was this weird nostalgia where I was like, oh, I love Murph, you know, I love her. I always disappointed what happened to her later on the series, but I love Murph. And then like listening to this, I was like, oh yeah, I remember how much Murphy annoyed me in the first book. Right. And I'm trying not to let her annoy me in this. What the fuck? And she makes things worse. And there's stuff Harry can't tell her because there's the White Council and they're kind of control of everything, right? And there's real magic, like realistic magic, you know, and people don't know about it really, you know, and Harry's like, I put my name in the little pages as a wizard. I don't care. And there's alluding to something that happened when Harry was really young, and he like killed his mentor, and because of that he's on probation from the White Council, because even though the White Council ruled that it was self-defense, they're still assholes. And his probation officer Morgan is an asshole. The whole time I was angry at Murph, angry at Morgan, and like hoping Harry, I mean, it was weird because I've read this before, but I was like hoping Harry turns out okay. I was like, that's damn good writing to get me sucked in like that, right? But I would still say this book is like, because Morgan and Murphy annoy me, and I think that's kind of what he was going for. This book has always been like a 4 stars for me because it really got me into the Dresden Files, and I really like the Dresden Files. It's going to be interesting me revisiting them because some opinions on some of the characters have really changed. Anyway, and what I like about Harry's really powerful, but he's not like overpowered, right? And in these books, he gets beat up, right? And the thing about him, because he's a wizard, his brain is like his biggest weapon, right? And he even says to himself he doesn't have hobbies. His hobby is like magic. So like he's sort of a very hyper fixated into his magic, into his craft. So it's really interesting, right? And this has one of my favorite scenes in any book. Because like people are being murdered and it's really graphic and someone's using dark magic to kill them. And also a subplot, there's this new magic drug that's going around. Basically, if you have magic, you could open your third eye or wizard vision or whatever. And you could see like auras and ghosts and things like that, right? They don't do it often because it takes a lot of power also, you know, stuff like that. So this drug kind of simulates that for like the mundane people, and it drives them crazy, right? But it's also super addictive. So that's a subplot in this that comes up later. But someone is using magic to kill people really horrific ways. And one of the people is a mob enforcer, so the mob gets involved, and that is fascinating and a lot of fun, especially when Dresden gets all bitch, like powerful bitch ass at them and like confronts them. Gorgeous. But my favorite scene is that the person that's killing these people conjured a demon to get to Harry because he's getting too close. And meanwhile, he forgot he had a date with a Latina reporter. So because he hasn't like slept or showered in a couple days. So he's taking a quick shower, right? While she's waiting in the living room, he hears someone at the door. He knows something's up. He tries to stop her. And it's basically he's fighting a demon with a towel, soap coming into his eyes, and then later he loses the towel, and like every time I picture his showdown like in the street, soap coming into his eyes, naked, trying to fight this demon, where like his friend or like the girl he was gonna go on a date with is high because she took the wrong potion. I don't know why this scene makes me laugh every freaking time, but it does, you know? And he gets so beat up he gets so beat up. As an investigation, kind of, you know, a mystery goes, it was kind of, if you read a lot of mysteries, you know who the culprit is kind of in the first part of the book, but I think you're supposed to, you know, this is sort of just like an entrance to this world, and I've always really liked this world, and I adore Harry. Like, also, I just want to like wrap him in a blanket and give him a chocolate chip cookie, pat him on the head and tell him, it's okay, I'll take care of it, you just take a nap or something. I always feel so big sistery about him. I'm like, oh my gosh. But Murph is annoying, and apparently because it's so difficult to write strong, smart, badass women that aren't bitches, right? Even though I can name some off the top of my head, you know. Samantha Carter from Stargate, brilliant. She's an Air Force officer. She's also like an astrophysicist or something. Smart, funny, tough, not a bee. Joe Lupo from Eureka, a badass special ops deputy marshal, tough, loves the ballet, super adorable, amazing. You know, so like there are characters out there. There's probably half a dozen that I'm forgetting too, because like I don't write anything down, which I should. Anyway, this is gonna be a long video. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, you know, you knew the first book Murphy pissed you off, right? But anyway, Morgan's convinced Dresden is doing this because he's an idiot and he thinks Dresden is just pure evil. And I'm like, oh great, you would love that in a parole officer. Lovely. So not biased. And if Dresden is found breaking his parole, he is decapitated by the sword of Damocles, because that's the system. That's the system. And you know, there's something I noticed this time around, which I didn't notice the first time, which I'm kind of disappointed I didn't notice the first time, that there are little bits of clues that Harry, after his father died, because his mother died in childbirth, his father died when he was a young teenager, that there's some seriously emotional scars going on that like influence how he acts with people, especially females, like especially women, because especially women, because like he tends to excuse a lot of behavior that he shouldn't excuse, you know, and especially if like the genders were swapped, no one would be okay with some of this stuff, you know what I mean? So that's book one. It hooked me when I first read it, and apparently it hooked my family members too, even my dog. So
hadn't gone anywhere but to work and back home for a couple of weeks.
On the way back, we listened to Full Moon, the Dresden Files Book 2 by Jim Butcher. Oh, this one. So this one, Full Moon, has to do with werewolves. And I, as an anthropology nerd that focus on folklore and mythology, folklore, and occult studies, I can't tell you how much fun it was that in this book they rambled off a bunch of different werewolf types that are from different cultures. You know, the Rougarou, the Hexenwolf, like it. I loved it, you know? So the Rougarou is a wolf more like a werewolf from horror movies. Uncontrollable, vicious beast. It's a curse. The Hexenwolf is more like you get a pelt and it's spelled so you could turn into like a shape, like you shapeshift into a wolf using the pelt, right? There are people called lupine, which they don't change into a wolf, but they have a wolf like mentality, and that is sort of explained like the berserker fighters of the Vikings. They were lupine, so they had human bodies, but they were a little stronger, a little faster, and they had like the wolf pack predator mentality, right? And then what was the other one? I think they just called it wolf. I don't remember what they called it, and I didn't write it down because I was driving, but it is when someone learns magic specifically to turn into a wolf, and that's the only spell. So they're just a shapeshifter into a wolf, right? So, and this book had all 4 types. This book was, the Stormfront was actually published in 2000 and 372 pages. And Full Moon was published 2001, so that's a really fast turnaround. Only a year to get another book out. That's impressive. And pages of 432. Full Moon is like a 2-star. Like, I forgot how much I didn't like this one. And again, there's like 20,000 books in the, well, I would say 20,000, but there's like over 15 books in the Dresden Files. 1 or 2, you're not gonna like all of them, right? But man, I forgot how much I didn't like this one. So anyway, someone is killing people and it's wolf-like, and the FBI is involved. Murphy's still angry at Dresden because he didn't tell her everything, even though if he tells her everything, she would be killed because he's not allowed to tell people shit, mundane people certain things, and if he does, they both die. But you know, no, Murphy needs to know everything. And I get it, she doesn't know that this would wound up like kind of a death sentence for both of them, so like I get it. So I tried to remember this nostalgic feeling of liking Murph, and I feel like I was like gaslit. I'm telling you, like, it's so weird because there's one scene that I missed the first time around, because when I was first reading the Dresden Files, I was dog grooming, and most of them were done on audiobook, right? And when you're in the salon, sometimes you don't have time to pause it. You have to do something and hope you get back to the correct moment later on. And I missed this one scene that changed my whole perspective on Murph, to the point where, like, before I was sad what happened to her later in the story, now I'm like, in the series, now I'm like, good, bitch deserves worse. So I know. But everyone who likes Murph, read Full Moon or listen to Full Moon and like this one scene I'm talking about, and then come to tell me if you still like her after this, okay? But like, red flags, okay? So there's werewolves out killing people. So Dresden, and there's FBI around, and the mob is maybe possibly involved because and things are happening. So Murph shows up at his favorite place, and he's arguing with a friend, someone he taught the occult to, right? And he's saying, no, I'm not going to help you with this binding circle. She gets pissed off, crumbles the paper, and throws it on the ground and stomps off, right? Murphy picks up the piece of paper. She kept the piece of paper. Fine. So people are dying, and they have to figure out. And there's a lot of misdirections, a lot of red herrings, to the point where they capture the Rougarou, who is an innocent person. Spoiler alert. He's cursed. He has no control over what he does, right? And, oh, this is a scene that I hate so much. Okay, so, and this is a scene I missed. I remember when I first listened to this, coming back and like going back and like having Harry like being arrested and escaping, right? But I missed the seconds before that changed my whole perspective. So they wind up at this guy's house, you know, and he takes precautions, and his usual cell to hold him in was broken. So he hired Dresden's friend to help him be contained. But Dresden's friend didn't tell him that, you know what I mean? So he thought she was trying to summon a demon, and he didn't want her to. So he didn't say anything because Dresden has a lot of unresolved trauma. And this author is too good not to know what they're putting in and how their character comes across. You know what I mean? Like, they're too good not to know that they're putting in these little subtle hints of past trauma. They're too good. And, you know, I've read this Jim Butcher's like high fantasy books, and like the female characters are well-rounded. They're tough, they're intelligent, they're badass, and they're not bitches. So I think Murph is purposely done this way. Anyway, they're in the house, and his friend is there, brutally murdered. And he is devastated, because not only is his friend, he was basically this girl's mentor, you know what I mean? And he looks to Murph as his friend, and she punches him in the chin, punches him in the stomach, handcuffs him, and then bashes his head against the wall. Because she pulls out the paper she took from the floor that is the binding circle. Without questions, she assaults him. She assaults him. And then when his hands are tied, she continues to assault him. That is cop brutality, and I fucking hate her. I fucking hate her now. I am happy what happens to her. I wish she suffered more. Like, you can't tell me you still like her after that. Like, there's no way. She was angry, and she took her anger out on him physically. Red flag. And like, I'm listening to this, I'm like, what did her first ex-husband, why did he really leave? Because the first book, when she gets scared, she gets pissed. When she doesn't know the answer, she gets pissed. And like, she's always described barely holding her anger. She assaults him. She physically assaults him. And this book and the first book, they're always saying what a good cop Murphy is. No, she's not. No, she's not. Every time she doesn't know what's going on, she arrests Harry. Every time she gets angry, she takes it on to Harry. And this assault, cop brutality, she's never going to be a good cop to me. I'm never going to think Murph is a good cop. She's a piece of shit. She's a bad cop. They should take her badge. They should put her in prison. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? I'm so mad right now. Like, I'm so, And then she proceeds to put him in the cop car without his Miranda rights. And her partner like talked to him before he went in. Didn't have any bruises on her face. When he comes out, he's like, Jesus, what happened to you? So there is evidence that she beat the shit out of him. She doesn't have a mark on him. He's covered in bruises that are already showing up on his face. Because let's remember, she clocked him in the jaw and smashed his head against the wall. Those are visible bruises. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I hate her goddamn guts. I don't even care. I don't even care. If you like Murphy, reread this book, revisit this book, read that scene, and tell me you're okay with a cop beating on a suspect. Not even a suspect. Her friend that apparently she was suspicious of from the beginning, and then, like, I'm so mad. And I know all the books are in Dresden's POV, so we don't get her POV. But what kind of POV would excuse this? This is cop brutality. It is not all right. This is physical assault. I don't want her anywhere near him. Are you kidding me? And then, like, he escapes with the help of the Rougarou's fiance because they're trying to not let everyone be viciously slaughtered, because the cops arrest the guy who's the Rougarou. Even though Murphy has the list, what will happen if they arrest him? Because cell bars are not going to keep a magical, monstrous beast in place. Hello. So he ends up going to the police station to try to save everybody. And he's so beat up. And he tries so hard to save people. People are slaughtered. Because again, instead of listening to Harry, she's like, I'm going to arrest you. because I know more than you. Even though you don't know shit about this world, that's why you hire Harry in the first place, right? And it's like a horrible, really graphic scene of this Rougarou ripping through people. Harry's trying his hardest, you know, things like that. People that were in the book one die in this book. Eventually the Rougarou's not the person actually the murderer, because these murders happened before and after the full moon, right? And it's pretty obvious again from the first part of the book who the bad guys are. Butcher does not hide that very well. I don't know if he meant to hide it really well. I feel like the mysteries itself are really easy. It's just the fantastical overarching world that really the books are about, and I'm not mad about it. That's one scene. Murphy can die in a fucking ditch. You know what I mean? Like that one scene. Forget it. We're done. And like at the end of it, does Murphy apologize? No. Does she try to make it right? Not really. Like she goes to the funeral with Harry, and he goes to the funeral of her partner with Harry. And he's like, that's what friends do. I was like, no. Get away from her. Like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Absolutely not. And I will say the third act conflict, it went on a really long time. It was a point where like people in the car were like, is this still happening? Like chapter after chapter, it kind of felt like it never was ending, never getting to the point. So for someone who was the first book felt so quick, fast paced, this was interesting. I feel like the pace in the third act was off, and it took way longer than it should have, you know? And internally, because we're in his POV, he's excusing Murphy's behavior, you know? And again, this author is too senior, too nuanced, and too good for that not to be on purpose. Like, we're in the POV of someone who has been in abusive relationships before and is used to it and is excusing it and thinking it's okay. And I get, oh, it's 2000. I'm like, like she hit him, that's funny. No, it's not. I don't care what gender you are. That is not okay. And like I feel sick that I like rooted for this couple. No. This one scene destroyed Karen Murphy for me. I despise her character now. And I know I missed the scene because I don't forget about crazy stuff like this. Like, I still bitch about that book 2 years ago where the monster husband guy was hiding in his pregnant mate's house for 6 months without her knowing. So like, I still bitch about that. So like, I know I just missed this one scene that completely changed how I felt about Murphy. And this wasn't an accident. I don't think, because like reading his other stuff and like how well nuanced the female characters are there, this was not a mistake. You are not really supposed to like Murphy. You're not really supposed to root for them. She's not supposed to be like the end all. You know what I mean? It's just, there's no way. I bet the fans liked her so much, and like maybe stuff changed later on in the series, but like I'm never gonna forget what she did to him. I'm not gonna forget that she brutalized him, handcuffed him, and she's not a good cop. Any cop that does police brutality is not a good cop. You're not a good cop. She's not a good cop. She can't freaking figure out one mystery ever. Like, no, she's not a good cop. She's never gonna be a good cop to me. She's a rotten cop. She's a dirty cop. She doesn't deserve her badge, and she doesn't deserve to be Harry's friend. And internally, he's excusing it. Like, oh, of course she didn't trust me, but completely skating over that she, like, in her job description, she's not supposed to do what she did. I don't care what personal feelings you have for the suspect. You're not supposed to do that. Like, ever. So, no. I hate her. It's going to be interesting revisiting the series because I want to, because the new one's coming out and I wanted to revisit the series to read the new novella, and now there's news that a new full novel's coming out. So I am going to revisit it, but like revisiting it with just pure hate for Murphy is going to be interesting. it's gonna be interesting because I hate Murphy, but I adore Harry. I still adore Harry, and like this nuance that I'm seeing, maybe I'm reading into it, but that I'm seeing now, I'm like, I want to like keep him safe even more. Even though he's like a badass wizard, but I'm like, oh no. But like, it's the way his thought process is very much how a DV victim excuses actions that should not be excused. And I wonder if that was the point the whole time, but people just kind of missed it, which could happen. And if that's true, then that's really sad. And if it's not true, then I'm just a cuckoo who's reading too much into it, and that's fine. But I'm never gonna like Karen Murphy's character again. No. And now I'm going to read the series knowing how it ends, and instead of being like, oh shucks, I'm gonna be like, fuck yeah. So there's that. So I know this video is super longer than normal, but I hope you don't mind the little clips of the vlog I took the little videos I took when I was out. Oh, I feel like my blood is rushing through my head. I'm so pissed off. Okay, well, I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.